Quick question, and be honest with yourself. How many times did you check your wrist today, even though you already knew what time it was? Yep, that's why you're here.
Hey, what's I ski? Yeah. What's on your wrist, eh? Perpetual calendar, three-hander, stainless steel on my skin. I want a daily driver, not a shrine I can't fit in. Casio on Monday morning.
So, welcome to What's on Your Wrist Day, the podcast for people who love watches way more than is probably reasonable and have absolutely zero plans to stop. I'm your host. People in the watch world know me as Riste or Wachowski. If you're going to pronounce and roll your R's, it's Riste. Most people can't, so they'll say Riste. But you can call me Wachowski. You might have also noticed that my name, Riste, is pretty close to a homophone for wrist. I don't think my parents knew that they were naming me for a future watch podcast, but here we are. This universe works in mysterious ways. So this is episode 1 of the pilot, and let's see if anyone actually listens to this thing. If you're here from the beginning, I guess, welcome. You're basically a founding member of this, so that's kind of cool, I guess, and I appreciate you. So here's what's going to happen is this is going to be a show. I think it's going to be part education, part obsession diary, part community. Hopefully we'll be laughing along the way. Hopefully you'll be laughing at me. I probably won't be laughing at you. It says, I've probably been where you're at. And whether you're a seasoned collector, I think if you're a curious newcomer, somebody just fell down the rabbit hole, maybe you're YouTubing and 2 a.m. and someone who's has a partner who's very concerned about their recent discretionary spending, I guess this session and this show and this podcast is going to be for you. So let's get into section 1 or segment 1. I think we're going to call this the confession. I'm going to introduce myself properly by telling you how I got here, and I'm going to warn you that it's a story that you probably recognize. So when I was a kid, my great uncle was a watchmaker, and this part may or may not connect with you, but I think the next part might. And he was from Yugoslavia, and he had a shed full of watches. And when I was little, he handed me my first mechanical watch. I was probably 6, and I was fascinated and I was hooked. And I got to manually wind this chronograph as a bicompax, and it was my first watch. So I manually wound it, and within, I think, a week or so, I manually overwound it and brought it back, and then we got to work on it. And it spiraled into just a full-blown obsession. And so I think we kind of have all gotten to that point where this, somewhere along the way, this watch, these things stopped being just a watch and they started to be an obsession, a hobby, lifestyle choice. Maybe my accountant finds this concerning a bit, and maybe all of the above for you. So what I love about watches, I really love, as it sits, I think this incredible intersection of a lot of things. It's engineering and it's art and it's history. I have a soft spot for history and it's innovation. And I think that this quiet watchmaker can make something beautiful that I can wear, right? I can take it with me. I can't take my fine art around. I can't go and just have it be a part of me that I know that these things are going to outlast me, which is pretty cool. So yeah, history, innovation. Yeah, there's mass production and this kind of obsessive hand finishing, I think, at times. And then, there's some dude in Switzerland or some woman in Switzerland that's hand finishing and doing these things. They'd be doing this one thing for 30 years. And then you got this like spectrum, right? On one end, you've got Rolex, the watch that everybody knows, the watch that your dad might have had, or the one that you aspire to get. You're sitting on a wait list or whatever, right? Or maybe you've got one on your wrist right now. The watch that has somehow become simultaneously the symbol of success and also the most counterfeited object on earth. And I think the subject of most of the passive-aggressive boutique conversations in probably human history, right? We have your name on a list, sir, right? The idea that we're going to talk a lot, I think, about Rolex on this show, but because what? Honestly, you have to. You love them. You find them a bit boring. People worship them. They resent the wait list, and then they're kind of the center of gravity that everything else seems to orbit around, right? Maybe I'll push back on that whole thing, right? I think, do we need another Rolex podcast, right? Then again, there's Patek, right? Their slogan, you never actually own a Patek, right? You merely look after it for the next generation. It's a flex so enormous that it's almost like performance art, right? And yet, these watches earn it. They're kind of infuriating at that point, right? And then you got AP giving us this royal oak, right? Gerald Genta's sketch on a napkin that became the most iconic design ever made. It's an integrated bracelet sports watch. It's in steel. It costs more than a gold dress watch. And this is in 1972. The industry thought that these guys were insane. And it turns out, no, they were onto something, right? And then this is where it gets really fun. You're going to fall off the edge of the mainstream map, probably like I did, or maybe you're already there now. And we're going to get into the deep water. And this is kind of where I think Wachowski sort of lives, right? So let's talk about that and let's get into the kind of the deep end. And I'm going to talk about my tastes a little bit. And again, just remember that these are my tastes. They're not yours. We don't have to agree on everything. But at some point, these big names, as spectacular as they are, they kind of stopped being enough of a conversation for me. And maybe you're there too. I wanted watches that had a real point of view, a watch that was made by people or a person who were kind of slightly mad, a little crazy in kind of the best way. And so let me introduce you to some kind of extraordinary places that my brain has kind of gone to, right? We'll talk about Czapek. Founded in 1840s, Francois Czapek, kind of the same Czapek who co-founded Patek, right? Before they had this kind of spectacular falling out, which I love. I love a good love story that falls apart at the end, right? We never have enough of those. So this kind of classic watchmaking drama, right? And we'll absolutely do probably a full episode on that eventually if anybody listens to this. And then the brand gets resurrected, right, in 2015 by a small team in Geneva, who, for me, they kind of decided that they wanted to bring back one of watchmaking's lost names. And this happens a lot, but, a lot of times they do it and they kind of just recycle stuff and, we see what Universal Genève is doing now and just stunning stuff, right? And I think that what Czapek did was just remarkable. I mean, stunning, genuinely stunning. Serious movements, incredible dials, this design language that looks like nothing else on the market. Now there's a lot of stuff copying it, but at the time, no one was doing this stuff. And barely anybody's heard of them. And to me, that's a gift, right? That's something that is fascinating to me. Then there's these smaller ones, right? There's Laine, also known as Laine, Torsti Laine, right? Nicest dude on the planet, so soft-spoken, just genuinely kind, right? A Finnish watchmaker. It's a small operation. He's deeply considered, and he has this kind of Scandinavian sensibility, right? It's clean, but it's not cold. And to me, there's real warmth there. It's in a world where every brand is screaming for your attention, right? And Torsti's over there just doing his thing, not caring, right? Just doing what he thinks is beautiful. And to me, that is so compelling to know that, Torsti had a connection to Kari Voutilainen, right? That he's this well-awarded watchmaker, but he does things his way. Then you start going down further and you're like, okay, now I'm going to get into these Germans. My wife is German, right? So you get this Dornbluth folks, right? You get Dirk and Dieter, right? And you're like, oh, Dornbluth, right? This father-son workshop in Kalba, Germany, right? A tiny town. And I'm connected to this. My wife is German. My younger brother played professional sports in Berlin for a bit, right? And I get pulled into this. And I see these watches being made almost entirely by hand, right? With this level of movement finishing that kind of embarrasses brands that are charging 3 times to 30 times the price. This architecture, for me, looks something like it's from another era and just kind of the best way. And it's not marketing. There's no celebrity endorsements. There's no ambassadors. It's just extraordinary watchmaking. And then to know for my son, right, if I have a Dornbluth, that my name is in a book sitting on a shelf in Germany, and that when my watch gets passed down to my son, he can shoot him a phone call or send him an email and say, hey, I've taken over this watch. This is the serial number. And they will add his name to that. It's fascinating to me. And so these brands, to me, represent something I care about deeply, right? The idea that in an industry that's kind of dominated by these luxury giants, these monster conglomerates, there's still these independents that are doing something that's purely for the love of the craft. And I think that they deserve to be talked about loudly. And so I know I have a small platform. Probably no one's going to listen to this thing, but I want to put it out there that there's this kind of DNA that I feel like is going to be woven through this show. We're going to cover Rolex. We'll cover Patek. They're kind of foundational and I think genuinely fascinating. And sometimes it's kind of fun to crap on them. But I think as we go deep on the names that don't have the marketing budget, but they absolutely have something that I think a lot of stuff out there right now is missing, and that's soul. So I want to keep this going a little bit. I want folks to be aware of what's going to happen next. I think what's going to be coming up on this podcast, I think deep dives into some of these icons. I think references that kind of define categories make sense, right? A Submariner, the Nautilus, the Speedmaster, right? The idea of having a white gold Speedmaster that It's completely under the radar, right? That'd be just nuts, right? The Royal Oak. What makes them great, what makes them overpriced at times, and why grown adults will stand in boutiques having a very civil conversation about an allocation, like they're negotiating a peace treaty, right? This movement, this talk. I think because the first time you look at a properly finished, hand wound caliber under a loop, you kind of feel something. At least I did. That's the moment when you're gone and there's no coming back. It's the moment that, you have this watch person in your community and they take off their watch and they flip it over and you're just like awestruck, right? So once you're going there, then you're not coming back. There's buying and then there's collecting. There's a gray market, there's secondary market, there's what to look for, what to avoid, and how not to get absolutely burned. Yeah, people like me, who in the beginning of this whole thing, decades ago, right? You might end up with an IWC with a Miyota movement in it until you learn what to look for, and then you have a community of people that you can trust, right? But until that happens, you have to learn your lessons, right? So I'm here to explain some of my mistakes as well through that. And then there's the culture, right? There's the forums and the community, which is mostly wonderful, but it has its characters. And then there's this flex crowd and then the anti-flex crowd, right? The idea that I just wear a Casio and I'm spiritually superior to you and all of you, and we love them too, right? Then there's the thing that I miss the most, I think, and the thing that I want to kind of bring back, which is just conversations. Conversations with collectors and watchmakers, with people who've been in this world for decades and people who just bought their first real watch last week. I want those people together, right? Because honestly, I think the best part of this hobby is really the people. So here's some questions I want to kind of end with as we sort of wrap this up and kind of just to see where this is going to go. I want to end this episode 1, with what I think is the best question in watch collecting. What is the watch that started it for you? Not necessarily the first watch you bought. Well, it might be. I mean, the watch that made something click. The one that made you realize that something was special. This wasn't just about telling time anymore. It was really about nothing to do with status. It had something to do that was harder to name. Craft, history, the feeling of something genuinely considered on your wrist. For some people, it's a Submariner that their grandfather's wrist had on, right? And it's passed down and it's beat up and it has marks and life that was lived, right? For others, it's a Speedmaster. Maybe they're connecting it to the moon landing, or maybe it's their connection to the birth of a child, right? For others, it's a video at midnight and about some tiny independent watchmaker, and then suddenly it's 4 a.m. and you're reading about this escapement geometry and you have 17 browsers open and you feel like more alive than you've ever felt in your entire life. And you feel like you just discovered a band, right, before everybody else has discovered this band, right? And so I want to hear yours. Find me, I'm Wachowski. Wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you watch people gather online, tell me your story because, I want to know about you. And it's not just about what's on your wrist. It's on, hopefully, but I want to know why it's on your wrist. So, all right, I can't just leave it like that. That would be horrible. So that's episode 1 of What's on Your Wrist Day. I want to thank you for being here from the very beginning. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you don't miss anything coming. And if you enjoy this, maybe just tell one person. That's all I ask. I'm Wachowski. Take care of yourselves and peace.
Hey! Wachowski! Yeah! What's on your wrist day? Perpetual calendar, 3-hander, stainless steel on my skin. I want a daily driver, not a shrine I can't fit in. Casio on Monday morning, Zella's got me saying stop. Topper Friday in the group chat, and my budget just got dropped. I can't afford that, still I stare at it. 80 can suck it, I'm in love with a habit. Lauren's group chat gonna make me broke. One more strap swap and I swear it's all a joke. What's on your wrist day? What's on your wristy? Daily driver, baby. What's on your wrist day? What's on your wrist day? I just can't resist. Watch that. Popped out crown on the wrist. Third swap of the day, yeah, I know. Brown on leather, steel on steel, then I change it for the show. Got it on my wish list, but I'm not acting rich. Reddit bros gonna fry us if I call this one a grail and switch. I can't afford that, still I stare at it. 80 can suck it, I didn't mean that. I'm in love with a habit. Czapek in the comments got me losing sleep, but I laugh it off cause we don't take it too three-hander and a dream. Stainless steel, a scratch or two. Still the king of the scene. Zello's new drop, stop. I click and then I flinch. Then I post, just browsing, and I buy it in a pinch. What's on your wrist? What's on your wrist? Daily driver, baby. What's on your wrist? What's on your wrist? I just can't resist. Watch out on the crap parade. What's on your wrist? What's on your wrist? What's on your wrist? What's on your wrist? Lauren's group chat gonna make me broke again. What's on your wrist? Hey, what's on your wrist? What's up, ski? Let's go. We don't take ourselves too seriously.